Agendas. That's right. That's right.
It's just, when you can test positive. Well, we have it and have no symptoms. It's really. I'm being very cautious. Yeah, I wear a mask when I'm out and about. I mean, not outside, but I go grocery shopping. Here's the list. Oh, jeez. Oh, Jim needs to go with me because I know where I'm going and I go and I'm always losing him. But today- Talk about you.
Right.
That's right.
I don't want.
Oh, is your landscaping all done? Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. They landscape for us when we moved in. We had kept them.
Where's the?
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh.
Okay, Mayor, I have the live stream going and the recording is in progress.
You just faded out. Did you let go of the button?
I said that the live stream is going and the recording is going, so it looks like we have about 1 more minute.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the May 10th City Council meeting to order at 7 o'clock. The meeting includes participants in person as well as by Zoom video. There will be an opportunity for the public to provide testimony if you are signed up during citizen testimony and again during the public hearing. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and President Bell, if you could lead us, please.
Will.
Thank you, President Bell. Sammy, roll call.
Yeah, we have Mayor Smith,
Here.
Councilor Bell,
Here.
Councilor Blaine,
Here.
Councilor Fox,
Here.
Councilor McConnell,
Here.
and I am showing that Councilor Alexander and Councilor Lehman are not here. There is a quorum. I am expecting both of those councilors to join us.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's comments. I'd love to be there in person, but as you know, with my recent cancer diagnosis, I am attending many appointments and hoping to keep them on schedule. So I'm not taking any chances on getting any kind of a bug, which would delay my appointments for a week or more. I want to assure the counselors that I'm in constant contact with Ann, Keith, regarding any succession issues. Counselor Bell or President Bell is also aware of them as I find out. I don't really have much more to report to you because tomorrow is my visit with my oncologist. I do have the biopsy and everything all taken care of. There was good news with that. It seems to be confined to the pancreas and to the liver. So there's a small chance of party time. Again, I will know more tomorrow. And as I know more and need to make decisions, then I will certainly let the council know. So I do want you to know that it is a big consideration for me as to what goes on here. I like being mayor. It's rewarding to me. And so I want to stick with it if I can. If I'm not able to, you will be one of the first ones to know. So I appreciate the prayers and good thoughts, and just keep them coming because that's what I need right now. Claire and I are pretty well set. We're in our brand new home and we're both retired, and we have a large family and large support group. So we're doing well with this, and we'll just keep praying and keep our fingers crossed that things happen in a good way. Sammy, agenda review.
Mayor, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for citizen testimony?
No.
Okay. Waiting response from council. I guess I should take an opportunity to ask any counselors if they do have any questions regarding my comments per the succession issues. I will say that you're more than welcome to call me or Ann Heath with any questions that you may have.
I think that's what I'll do.
Okay. Consent agenda, which contains the minutes of March 8th and minutes of April 12th for the Coburg City Council. Does any counselor wish to remove one of these items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for any additions or corrections. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda or the minutes of March 8th and April 12th as presented in the packet. I second that.
I have a motion by Councilor Bell and a second by Councilor McConnell to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you, councilors. Special guest. We have a budget committee applicant, Elise Landry.
Introduce real quick. So budget committees had a vacancy for over a year. You guys know from last year. That's really loud. We received one application. It's been posted in our town, Dairy Mart, social media. We've been asking. Finally got an applicant. Timing will not allow us to go to for the budget committee to interview her and then recommend to council. It'd be the end of the budget season for us to do that. So staff's recommendation is for council to consider. You guys are half of the budget committee. Consider her application tonight. Make the recommendation to the mayor for appointment if you choose. And Budget Committee has also received, which you guys all received, a copy of our application last night. We did invite the Budget Committee applicants to it, our Budget Committee members to attend tonight's meeting or submit any questions. The only feedback that I received was from Chair Kroger, who said that everything looked fine, that she had no further questions and she supported the decision. So in order, if you guys do decide to do it, we would need a motion for the appointment, mayor's appointment. And Elise is here if you have any questions for her. Next meeting.
Thank you, Sammy. Are there any questions from counselors? Counselor Lehman.
Why do you want to be in this position?
Good question. I attempted to address that in my application, but I'm happy to talk about that here too. My husband and I are new residents of Coburg. And although we've been commercial property owners here for several years, and so we're familiar with Coburg and you know, we're enamored with the town before we moved here in November of 2021. But the main reason that I wanted to volunteer to help is that I saw that there were positions open for the Budget Committee and the Finance and Audit Committee. And I thought that my experience and background could be useful in those positions. And I also just really want to get involved and support the town. We previously lived out in the country southwest of Eugene for many years and in an unincorporated area. And so as such, we were kind of disconnected from a, you know, community as far as, you know, where we lived per se, although we were members of communities in Eugene. But so I'm interested in supporting the community and getting to know other people here as well and seeing how the town runs and how I can contribute to that.
Follow-up question. Has anyone twisted your arm to be on both committees?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Kathy Engebretson, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her name, contacted me and asked if I would also serve on the Finance Audit Committee. And I said I would be happy to do that. I was concerned a little bit about the sort of time commitment that would involve initially, because I do still work full-time for the University of Oregon, but sounds like it's, you know, not going to be a huge commitment. She said maybe 8 meetings or so a year. So that seems very manageable.
I think she's hired.
Any other questions from counselors?
Well, Elise, it looks like your background would certainly be an asset to both of those committees, and so thank you for applying. I don't have any questions. John was way ahead of me. I did wonder why, but I also know as a new resident, it's very helpful to get involved in the governance of the city, of the town, so that you can really learn a lot more about it. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing no further questions, I would accept a motion to accept Elisa's application to the Budget Committee. And Sammy, I need a clarification. Are we also making assignment to the Audit Finance Committee?
No, she's going to attend the July meeting of the August finance or the July meeting.
That's right. I remember you telling me that earlier. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Budget Committee, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the application of Elise Landry as presented as a highly qualified candidate for the Budget Committee.
And I would second that.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate regarding this issue from counselors? Okay, all of those in favor of placing Elise Landry on the Budget Committee, please raise your hands. Looks unanimous. All right. congratulations, Elise, and thank you for applying. I think you will enjoy the committees, and it is a great way to get involved in the community. Per section 5 in our charter, the mayor appoints, and so I hereby appoint Elise Landry to the Budget Committee to fill the term through June 30th, 2024. Congratulations and thank you.
Release.
All right, moving forward to my printing is messed up. Public hearing, first reading, and consider waiving the second reading of ordinance A 200K, an ordinance correcting Scrivener's errors in ordinance A 200J. It is 7:13. Public hearing is open. Staff report from Ann Davies.
Counselors, I'll actually be passing this off to Ann Davies for any questions, but just as an introduction and some background, what is before you this evening is an ordinance to correct 2 Scrivener's errors from ordinance A 200J, which was the ordinance that approved the annexation on April 12th. And so the first Scrivener's error reads, it references ordinance A 200G, which was the previous edition. It should read A 200I. And the second error is a mention of A 220I, which should read A 200I. So this is an ordinance to correct those 2 typos or Scrivener's errors in the ordinance. There are 2 motions associated with this staff report. The first is to waive the second reading of the ordinance so that the Scrivener's errors can be corrected this evening, should you choose to pass the second motion.
Is there anybody registered or signed up to speak?
No.
Hearing none, I will close this hearing at 7:15. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to waive the second reading of ordinance A 200K. This must be a unanimous decision for it to be approved. And basically what this does is allow us to take care of all this business tonight. If the second reading is not waived, then it will be put into the agenda for the June meeting for a normal second reading and a vote to approve.
I move to waive the second reading of ordinance A 200K.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Counselor Fox and a second by Counselor Blaine to waive the second reading of ordinance A 200K. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unfortunately, I can't see the big screen, so Sammy, would you give me a count?
This is unanimously.
Thank you. Having that out of the way, I'll now entertain a motion to adopt ordinance A 200K, an ordinance correcting Scrivener's errors in ordinance A 200J.
I move to adopt ordinance A 200K, an ordinance correcting the Scrivener's errors in ordinance A 200J.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Counselor Fox and a second by Counselor Alexander to adopt ordinance A 200K, an ordinance correcting Scrivener's errors in ordinance A 200J. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So why I'm having problems is whoever spoke last is my big screen and I can't see the council screen when that happens. So I was hoping somebody would say something to make it pop. Thank you, counselors, and thank you, Megan. Resolution 2022-11, a resolution approving the transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Staff report from Tim Gaines.
Hey, good evening. So this resolution is to, based on the salary survey and the change in the wage scale. What this does is it transfers out of contingency and into the expense line so that we don't go breaking any budget laws. And that's what you have in front of you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
What was the amount that's necessary to transfer?
The total amount? That would be on page 29. And we had to take 79,116 out of contingency and moved into the various expense lines for each department, I guess you would say.
And our contingency fund is lowered by that amount.
Correct. Yeah, it went from 250,000 to $170,884.
And then that will be readjusted during the budget
Yes,
meetings. Thank you.
for next year you're speaking of. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Any questions?
With no further questions, I'll entertain a motion for resolution 2022-11.
I move to approve resolution 2022-11, a resolution approving the transfer of appropriations excuse me, for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Second.
Was that a second by Counselor Fox?
My new
Thank
voice.
you. I'm having a little skip in my transmission here. Okay, there's a motion by Counselor Bell and a second by Counselor Fox to adopt resolution 2022-11, a resolution approving the transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2021-22. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
And it looks like it's unanimous again.
That is
Any
correct.
opposed? Are there any opposed? Could somebody at the council table say something so my screen can pop back?
No opposition.
Thank you. Now I can see you. Passes unanimously. We'll have to figure out how to make this screen change and stay on the council. Administrative information reports. Did I see Ann Heath getting up?
I'm going to present the quarterly police report. Our police chief somehow thought he needed to take a vacation.
What?
Oh, Mike's on Zoom. I didn't know where that. I'm going to let Mike give the report then.
Okay, I'm here.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. What have you got for us?
Okay, so we have the quarterly report where I know we've added tracking where we're spending our time more as far as training, office and patrol. That's something new that we've done. As well as our traffic and person stops have increased. We have added an officer in the last couple of years, so that allows us to find more things and catch more things that are going on. Person crimes and calls for service have increased by 1%, and other crimes increased by 4%. We've included all different types of calls that we respond to. And are there any questions?
I would just like to say that it's really nice to see the information coming out and what you guys are doing. I think it just helps to justify spending a huge portion of our general fund on our police force. And I think, everybody agrees that safety of our community is a top priority, and you guys do a great job with that. And I love having statistics to back that up. So thank you.
And then also pointing out, we have the World Games coming up, as well as we're continuing to working some ODOT grant and working with the U.S. Marshals.
Mayor, Counselor Fox had a question.
Go ahead, Counselor Fox.
Is the, what goes on in Harrisburg included in this data?
No, so what's included in this data about Harrisburg specifically is just the amount of time spent there. We're not there taking calls or anything, so the only crimes that a Coburg officer might get involved with would be a traffic crime where they were the ones who stopped a suspect, or maybe assisting a county deputy if they know we're there and they request us. But there should not, for the most part, be any crime enforcement done with Coburg officers in Harrisburg.
I'd like to add one thing that for the back page on the officer time record and why we started doing this, the chief and I actually took a class through ICCMA on managing police time. It was part of my credential through that organization. And so then the chief and I were able to discuss the information, and part of that was that officers should not be spending more than 75% out on the beat. So collectively as a department, if you're seeing that they're out there chasing crime or investigating crime or whatever, more than 75%, then you don't have enough officers because you have to make sure that they have time to do reports. They have to have time off. They have to be trained properly. And the chief and whoever other officers are in the administration piece or other staff members in the police which we do have a full-time staff member that is administration, that administration is so very important that it's continuing to take place and that we're not skipping it or cutting it short. So I just wanted to point that out, is that's why it's so important to look at this officer time record, because if we continue this as a trend, then it should start telling us someday in the future when we maybe start having to look at adding an officer.
Also, you have to not burn out an officer, and 75% plus on the beat would definitely contribute to that.
Any other questions or comments for the police quarterly report?
it's great to see the statistics. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Lee, for being present and being able to answer our questions. Looking forward to more.
Yes, then I'll be here throughout the meeting in case there's any more questions.
All right, thank you. Financial quarterly report. Tim Gaines.
Hello again. Go ahead and put the second slide if you would, Sammy, please. You bet. Oh, the slides that came through. I love technology when it works.
Ours is working.
Hey. Are you guys seeing the front page with the city hall?
No.
There's
Oh,
yeah,
who on
so-
Zoom aren't seeing it.
Yeah, so it's a share screen. Stop sharing. We have nothing on there. Yeah.
I see it.
Smith, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Oh, yay.
Great. All right, Sammy, you go to the second page, that'd be great, Sammy. All right, so what I'm presenting tonight is the third quarterly report for fiscal year 2022. March is the 9th month of the year, so 75% of the year is gone. More than that now, of course, but it's just been a very fast year. If everything was perfect, we would have expended 75% and collected 75% of our revenues, but as we all know, that's not how it works. The good news is, in revenues, we're at 38%, and compared to last year, we're $366,214 higher than we were last year this time, so that's always good. You could go to the next slide, please. And that's just a comparison from last year of all the funds for your enjoyment. Any questions on revenues? If not, oh, check on.
So our revenues are up, and in part, we've had the TUF implemented this past year.
Correct.
And the gas tax increase. We've had greater usage of water and sewer fees overall, and more system development fees added. And then with the restructuring and refinancing of our loans, that's been a significant increase or decrease in expenditures at least.
Yes.
So all those things have contributed to a more positive cash flow. And
yes, absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
off the top, what I know it was $1 million or so over an extended period of time, but
The savings on the bonds. I don't know the exact number, John, sorry.
just
It was over $1 million though, over the period of the loans. So yeah, it's a great thing. Any other questions? Yeah.
Tim?
Yes, sir.
Curious why the sewer fund would be down from last year.
You know, we've been talking about that. So we're discovering that our industrial area by I-5 is a big commander of services. We're having, we're looking at, we'll talk about this in budget, but I'll go over a little bit. Our franchise fees are not what we expected them to be this year. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? She talked to Pacific Power
Yeah.
this week.
So overall, so up to this point, we haven't seen a lot of changes that we could pinpoint that it was directly related to COVID. But we are starting to see a couple things. And one of those is that our franchise fees, our power franchise fees have fallen off. And so we reached out to them and had a good talk with them about what is going on. And it was what we suspected as our businesses in Coburg, as a city, our businesses are the driver for power franchise fees, and residential do feed into that, but it is not substantial here. It is really industrial district. So as they laid off shifts, closed shifts and didn't run full time, it did affect our franchise fees. So we are behind. And so as far as sewer fees, we are looking at it. And you know, it's hard to say without a complete analysis, did they use less sewer? But we have it's hard to say. It could be that we over budgeted based on development. And so we are looking at all of those pieces right now, but sewer is tracking behind. So we're aware of it and we're looking. So we are not able to say, well, that's related to them shutting down and not running as much. And that's something that we need to work with utility billing to have a better analysis of maybe our top 10 businesses over the last 12 months to see if we do see a change in that. So yeah, that's what we would have. Sewer, as far as sewer being behind, sewer receives a large payment right in the last month of the year. We don't transfer it till the end of the year. So that makes the revenue look like it's tracking behind overall in sewer, where in fact it will get caught up. Do be prepared that, as we say, yes, all of these revenues are looking great and stuff, that going into the new budget, there's some concerns out there that
What?
Yeah, I'm guessing of when I said what I said about the businesses out there. I have friends that work out there. I know Marathon at one point had 6 employees for at least 3 months in the building. So it was as we all know, it's been a fun couple of years. Anyway, any other questions on revenues? That was a good question.
Yeah, Tim, how do these compare to 2020? How far off are they?
To 2020, I don't have that information on.
Does it have this much of a swing or difference?
I don't have 2020 right now, honestly.
Okay, I'll come by and just ask in person.
Sure, or we could certainly get that information to you guys.
Yeah,
Just be interested to see.
Counselor Alexander, I think we really started seeing that change take place in 22. That's when we really started noticing it. And so we have received some paperwork back from the Pacific Power kind of explaining it, and we're happy to share it with the council.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Excuse me. Okay, Sammy, can you go to the next slide, please? Whole city expenses were 40%. This year we have spent $4,035,908, which is $119,446 less than what we did at this time last year. So again, that's a good direction to go in. We have collected $836,379 in taxes, which is about 97%. Can you go to the next slide, please? Sorry. And then here's a comparison. So again, outside of the street fund, everything is increased this year from last year, sorry. Any questions on expenditures?
The only, if I'm, sewer fund is the only one where expenditures are
Decreasing.
greater. Is that
I'm sorry,
true?
I'm looking at that wrong. The general fund actually exceeded last year. The street fund exceeded a little bit, and then the water and sewer funds are below where they were last year. Sorry. I might have misstated that.
Well, I can't quite read it either, Tim, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I may have messed you up by saying it kind of backwards. I'm sorry about that. Any questions on this slide at all? The next slide, please. And then this is just a comparison of just 2022 revenues to expenditures. And the sewer fund is the only one that's expending more than we're getting in, but it's also mainly because of the big loan payments we have with that fund. And we do a transfer from the URA at the end of the year that will make that look better here in about a month or so.
And again, I appreciate seeing the revenues to expenses next to each other.
Could you go to the next slide, please? Sam? This is our cash on hand sheet, and compared to last year, we have $632,297 more in cash than we did. So again, a nice trend. Any questions on that sheet? It's a little busy.
No. I'll share it.
I will make you guys copies of the PowerPoint as soon as we're done with this
It
presentation.
is on the, it's in the packet
It
on
should be,
page
yeah.
38.
It is, it should- I hope it is.
So it is. Course correct. It's just.
Adobe usually works pretty good.
That's-
Cash balance is significantly better March of 22 versus 21.
Yeah, overall, yes, for sure.
You attribute that to, that's quite a bit of cash increase on hand.
Some of it is going to be timing based on a lot of, I would say, the water project in some cases. There's also timing issues with when the revenues come in. So we don't have all of our revenues in March. Typically, some of them are coming in until almost the end of April.
But it's comparing March to March.
Right. I don't have a specific answer for why it's higher, other than I think a lot of it's timing, because like it is all funds. And I know our water project has not expended what we kind of expected at this point. That will be one thing that could be the part of it.
There also is, so SDCs, if you look at that sewer number on the SDCs, we are growing in SDCs. You know, a couple of years ago, there was no development happening in Coburg and there weren't SDCs. And so this is a savings account that is growing while we probably are spending a lot of the park and a lot of the water. Thus far, street and sewer are continuing to grow. And of course, we will use them. There are projects that they will be spent on, but at this time, if you look at that sewer number, that just continues to grow.
Even without the development taking place, there's been enough building that's been substantial.
Questions? Next slide, please. And I know you guys are curious about gas tax, so I'm going to continue to put this in unless you guys don't want me to, but it's still coming in the way we expect it to. February and March were a little slower than January, but it's usually hovering around $12,000 at least. So I just want to include that. Any questions on that? Slide, please. This one's pretty. Isn't that pretty? Sorry, I'm training on PowerPoint. It's not my strength, but I figured out how to make the bars different colors, obviously. But this is the transportation.
Crayons to me.
Yeah.
If it made you nauseous, I apologize. I won't do it again. This is our transportation utility fee to date, since we started in September. So I just thought again, I'd include that for you. To see it's coming in real consistently at $12,000. And
What is the left column going top and bottom?
the left, March is on the top, and then it goes down to September, month to month. And we started in September, so.
Would have expected that it would go up during the summer, but not.
Isn't it based on the population? So
Yeah, so I believe residents are charged a set amount, and then the businesses have a formula of some kind, so. It's,
Yeah, it's not by population.
oh, yeah, yeah,
No.
sorry.
No, it's a set amount for residents, and then every business pays according to their use of transportation.
Yeah, I was thinking of gas tax, not the tough, and that was my head
That's
going in a
okay.
different direction. I apologize for that.
It's the colorful page, I think, that threw you off.
Flatline.
Yeah, because they're assigned a tough. And
Right.
as we get new businesses, then we will have more tough, and if businesses close, then we have less tough. And so, but everybody across the board right now should be a set amount that they're being charged.
Any other questions on that? And then the last thing I'm gonna say on the report is I just submitted a water reimbursement for $272,000. We don't always get all of that back. There's sometimes things that aren't part of the program. And they've told me we should get that before June 30th. So I asked them specifically if we could get it before June 30th. They're working their tails off on it. It's a big one, so hopefully we'll get it before June 30th. If not, we'll see it first next year.
What exactly is that again?
It's the water reimbursement for the revolving loan. So expenses for the water project are turned in. We try to turn them in quarterly, and honestly, I did 2 quarters on this one. So this is October through March. Yes, October through March is 6 months worth. And so we will get reimbursement for the qualified expenses in that. So they're at Lane Council of Governments right now being reviewed, and then they'll do their transfer into our investment pool. Any other questions on anything?
Nice and colorful.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too much on the one, I guess. If there's more questions, thank you.
Tim?
Thank you, Tim. Utility rate analysis, Ann Heath.
So this is a information only report for the council to follow up on your work session. So we talked about many things in that work session, and part of that is a change in our water project, and definitely having to look back at our water master plan as it is associated with the reservoir, the planned reservoir. And for those of you that were not there, the reservoir on the hill it's determined that it's not going to work, that there's many factors involved with that. And so. You're trying to get my attention? No. Oh, I'm sorry. And so we have to make a change in the project. The answer to the changes is a recommendation of an elevated reservoir somewhere within the city limits. I've spent the last 2 weeks talking with property owners in the I-5 corridor, and I think we have about 4 to 5 different properties that have agreed to be part of the feasibility study to see which one would be best. One of those is Cow Creek, and there's several MBM properties, has some property on Roberts Road, as well as some other properties on both sides of the freeway. Also, the new subdivision or the new industrial lands have offered 2 different locations in their property that could be part of the feasibility study. So we're doing well at identifying alternative properties. And so once our engineer has provided that, then they will start the feasibility study to relocate the reservoir. Just a reminder that that is going to take until September to get a draft report back. So, so this is really providing the council with a work plan that the staff would like to follow to get to that point. So there is another piece regarding utility fees and specifically water fees that we need to look at. And the council did give staff direction to budget for a 3% water increase, but not implemented, and a 1.5% sewer increase. The reason we wouldn't implement it is because there's a lot more information to gather, and we need to look at the financial impacts of increasing the fees. I was able to meet with Doug Gabbard, who does our platforms for us this week. And part of the questions that we need to answer is what's going to happen with our water master plan. And so we went through the platform, and the platform is associated with the water master plan as it is now. Exactly. So there were projects out in 2030 that are in that platform that may not happen at all and may get moved up. So we need to determine which of these projects are actually going to happen and what is the cost of these projects. And so to have a financial workup for you, I will do my very best, but it's not probably going to be a complete piece of information for you, because until they finish their feasibility study, I don't have that information. What we do know is that an elevated water reservoir is going to cost more money. So Business Oregon is aware of this, and they're aware of our need, and they have assured me that they are looking out for funds for us, that there are going to be grant funds becoming available, but there also is loans available to the city as well. So, there's questions we cannot answer right now until we get the feasibility study back and know exactly what we're looking at for a change in the water project. So I have put together a timeline, which is heavily influenced with the public education of letting the public know what's going on. You know, that the council is looking at fees, especially for water, but there's a lot of pieces that have to be considered. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the timeline and work plan for this. And if you have any suggestions that you would like to see something different, then that's certainly, I'm willing to make those changes as well. So basically, what we would start with this month is some form of a newsletter out to the public about this discussion and to begin the feasibility study. We're completing budgets. We are behind completing our budget. We're hoping to have it done tomorrow. Part of that struggle is we're getting information every day from other agencies that is irrelevant to our budget. And so we are hoping to wrap that up first thing in the morning and get the budget out. Then we can start looking at some financial scenarios for that. In June and July, we hope to show you some financial solution or some scenarios. And then continue the public education. I'd like to continue it similar to what we did with the TUF, if really giving people some good information so they know what's going on. We should get the results of the feasibility study in September, and then the council can have probably another work session where we do look at the financial impacts of the recommendations for the water project. And then council would be making a final decision in October. You can Then if you determine that you want to raise fees, you can raise them halfway through the year. You can raise them starting in January. Or you can wait with the intention that they would be raised at the budget year, at the beginning of the budget next year. So I wish that I could tell you an exact of what we needed to do, but at this point, with the volatility of everything going on right now, with the cost of goods, construction prices, everything, until we have a study completed, I am really hesitant to give you more than some financial scenarios of where we are now and what it could look like. And we could have those for you in June and July. But again, those would be very preliminary. Happy to answer any questions.
Of, that were contacted with one of them, the 4-acre site that we talked about.
No, he said that he's not willing to give that site up. He sees that as a valuable site in the future and that he was going to hold on to that one. So.
We anticipating as far as delays because of the change. Supply.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now, so we've discussed this with our engineer. We definitely are going to put the third well. It is on the number one to get the well drilled and get it online. And so we have that third water source. Right, on Stallings Lane. So we're, the engineer is thinking that we will have that drilled and developed it in a 6-month period. Then we will hook it up to the rest of the water infrastructure. We don't see a concern right now. It's really as we see more development happening in the city that and on the east side as well as this side, that we would want to have that reservoir in place. But at this time, there isn't a concern that we're going to run out of water or anything like that. We have time. Sir.
So the 1.5% sewer increase and the 3% water increase is basically a placeholder. It's not intended to be the amount of revenue that we need to add to the budget to
Right.
cover the expenses, in part because we're probably not going to implement something till November or December or that.
Sure.
But it's just to add something in the budget for an expected increase. Is that
Right.
correct?
That is my understanding of your direction.
It was, it's my understanding that it was also just so that we could look at whole numbers in the budget as far as what a 1.5%. I mean, you can look at the chart and say, oh, 1.5%. What is that in the budget? And what is a 3% in the budget so that we could have some big numbers that relate to the budget line item. Give us some comparison. And until we have further data and see if 1.5 and or 3% works, then that at least we have something to look at and have guidance.
One last question on the evaluation of our reservoirs now. That's already scheduled routinely, or is that just part of the feasibility study?
That is part of the feasibility study that was approved. The other piece that I wanted to share is that there was direction that we did not need the easements on the hill, that those could be sold back. And so we have made the neighbors on the hill aware that hold easements. I have one person that that's my contact on the hill, and then he contacts everybody else. It's a nice relationship. And so then they were informed they will receive a formal letter from the city. And that is prepared. It hasn't been mailed yet, but we've prepared those. So worked with the city legal to look at how we negotiate those leases or the easements to be sold back. And that's a difficult there are some leases that are a very low amount. We paid very little for them. And so to have an appraisal on them would be more than they're worth. And so but there are a couple of them that are substantial and that they probably would have some form of a valuation done on them, appraisal, and negotiate a buyback. Yes, sir.
So will this be similar to the easements that we discussed on the alleys where all the easements would have to be purchased by the adjoining neighbors? Because we don't want to have a broken up section of easements where this easement is sold back, this easement is not, this one is, and that's not, because that would not be in the city's best interest to just have a non-continuous easement broken up like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the response is. In my conversations with the residents on the hill who have these easements, the majority of them were very interested in purchasing them back from the city. Initially, they didn't want the reservoir and they said, we'd be happy to buy our easements back and you can place it someplace
I
else.
would just
So-
hope that they all are purchased or, sell just. a portion
Right.
of them.
So I guess, so what the next step is to wait and see if we hear back from all the property owners, and then we will take a look at legally what the city wants to do there. It could be that the purchase back or the buyback of the leases could cover the cost of our feasibility study, and that's what I'm at least hoping for.
One landowner would purchase them all, or does it have to be associated with the properties that are adjoining to it?
Yeah, I don't think that they'd have any interest in purchasing an easement. There would be no purpose for them to purchase it. So, and if they don't want to purchase them back, then the city retains the easement. I'm not sure how helpful that would be for anybody. So,
Easements were granted to the city, so they wouldn't be any use to. City has the use of it, or the property owner's going to get the use.
are you okay with the work plan?
Yes. Start with, very clear in our work session, how that was going to go along. And I know the consulting firm was really working hard on getting the things back. Good to me.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Ann. Any questions from counselors on the administration's monthly update? Hearing none. Any council comments? All right, upcoming meetings, budget hearings, our urban renewal agency meeting, annual contracts are coming up soon, so we'll be seeing all of that. One final chance for any final comments from counselors. And we're going to close this meeting at 8:01. Thank you, counselors and staff. And again, I will remind counselors that if you have any questions regarding succession or anything related to it, please feel free to call me or Ann Heath. Thank you.
You.